The 1920s were typically in many aspects. Life was prosperous after the war and everyone was happy. Well, except for the Germans and the Aboriginals. The Aboriginals have been a peaceful spiritual group native to America for hundreds of years. But the Canadian government, unfamiliar with the natives' ways and grief for land, decided to assimilate the Aboriginals. As a result, the Indian Act was formed in 1876, prohibiting the Aboriginals to self-govern since they are under the guardianship of the Canadian government. The Aboriginals were isolated to land reserves where they were provided housing and were allowed rights for hunting, fishing, education, and financial aids. Over the years, all of these rights were overlooked by the Canadian government, such as financial aid being decreased yearly. This was all rights as part of the status as being an Indian. The education was to send children to residential schools run by the government and administered by the Christian Church. The ultimate goal of the residential school was to replace the children's native roots with Christian teachings. The children were often abused emotionally, physically, and sexually in these schools, often many miles away from the reserves. In 1919, the League of Nations was formed by former veteran and Mohawk Fred Lott. In the first 2 decades after forming, they worked better for better health and education programs, more financial aids and control over land reserves, and the right to hunt and fish without interference. Soon the allied tribes of BC and other such organizations banded together in the push for recognition of Aboriginal rights. In response to the Aboriginal activism, the Canadian government made it illegal to raise funds for the Aboriginals and the right to form political organizations. The RCMP stationed themselves at the reserves. Without any funds for land claims, the Allied forces soon dissolved, and soon this major problem was forgotten by the public. This is why the 1920s did not roar.